Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Living Astrology with Janet. It's time to grab your cup of coffee or your tea, sit back and relax while we chat about what is going on in the stars above us. For the weekend, happy Friday, everybody. It is always good to come to the end of the week and realize we have a couple of days, perhaps, of not having to get up early or go running off to do things other than fun things right away. Actually, work can be fun, right? I love getting up and coming to work every day. um, what a week it's been, right? Really, uh, I really don't even know what to say anymore because sometimes the things that are going on in the world are just so insane. Um, I did note that on Wednesday, my day started out right away with a couple of houses that had burned down the street from me, which kind of made it harder for people, like us leaving here to go to work because these houses burned down. The firemen had the street blocked off, so you had to take a route around that. And I thought, oh, what is going on today that, these fires would happen? Well, it just so happens those fires began while the moon was in Aries, the later degrees of Aries, which brings it to, the ending of something, right? And then as that day wore on, there were all kinds of problems and issues I was having with my printer. And then later in the afternoon, the shooting of Charlie Kirk. I don't even know who this person is, never had heard of him before. And yet I realize his ideology is way on the other side of my ideology, but it doesn't matter, right? We can't go around killing people that we don't agree with. I mean, that is just sort of anathema to everything that we are as human beings. So it was a very sad thing to have happen, and it just seems like that day, for whatever reason, it was a very high energetic day. And I'm thinking part of it has to do with the lunar eclipse that had occurred on Sunday or Saturday. And I feel like it had something to do with, the moon's placement, Mars's placement, like all of these planets were coming in just to show us the ludicrousness of the things that we are doing. Maybe not you and I, but that in general humanity is going through. I had also made another note this week that one of the things that I'd been looking at, and I'd been saying to all of you, is about grassroots movements, about people power, right? People coming together and working toward a specific goal or demonstrating for or against something. I mean, people power, and all of that has to do with Pluto in Aquarius, which reminds me that on Wednesday would have been like the first full day that Pluto was actually out of bounds, right, for the entire day. It could have been that extreme, right? What does that beg for? It begs for some kind of reform, some way of reforming the way that we are together. And, uh, you know, the sadness is that he was a young man, he had a young family, and there is it reminds me of the 60s, with Bobby Kennedy, Martin Luther King, and, you know, the people who had a voice, who were sharing their voices being cut down. And again, it doesn't matter the message. It doesn't matter. I mean, he had a fairly extreme message, opposing my total way of thinking, but that doesn't make him wrong. It doesn't make him worthy of killing and being, being killed and dying. Terrible, terrible thing. Um, anyway, the astrology has shown us, though, that these kinds of things will continue to happen until we deal with our shadows. And interestingly enough, in the Pleiadian calendar, we are also in the shadow period, right? So we have, these things lined up that's telling us, deal with these shadow energies before they get the best of us, right? And maybe the message isn't that they will get the best of us. They have gotten the best of us, and it's time for us to change the way it is that we live and work and talk to one another, right? New ideas are necessary, and people are gathering. I noticed France, lots of people coming together, like literally millions of people coming together, uh, kind of against their government and what's happening in their country. England, same thing, right? Mass amounts of people coming together to demonstrate. In this country, every day I get some kind of notification about people gathering to demonstrate or to, get their voices heard. And that is more, we'll see more of this. We'll see way more of this as time goes on because it's a hallmark of Aquarian energy that people would gather and that their voices need to be heard. And it's also a quirkiness of Aquarius energy that those margins, the people that are marginalized in some way, coming to the center while the center comes undone and goes out to the edges, which is why it is that we can see such extremism, right? That we can see extremism because out on the edges here have been these people whose voices have not been heard or who were unable to get heard. And so, astrologically speaking, they're kind of moving into the center to be heard. And at some point, we have to balance all the voices, right? And not let the forces of crazy uh, take over. So, interesting week. Today, we're going to be talking about something, far easier than the incidences of violence in the US or around the world. And that is Sun and Mercury coming together in Virgo in a sextile to Jupiter. And, this gives me an opportunity to run down what Mercury represents, what the Sun represents, and what a sextile represents, and what Jupiter represents, right? Because that's really the biggest news of the weekend, except that tomorrow we also have the Sun and Mercury in an conjunction, in their superior conjunction in the sign of Virgo. And that gives us an opportunity to talk about that. Literally, that's it as far as the energy goes for the weekend. But now we are also feeling the effects, if not already having been feeling them, the effects of the solar eclipse coming up on the 21st. So, another week from now, 9 days or so from now. And a solar eclipse is always going to give us the new, right? The setting of the new intentions and so forth. And that could be a very powerful time. It's new intentions being set and at the 29th degree of Virgo, which means that we likely are being asked to let go of old mindsets, of old habits, of old routines, letting go so that we can open up into something new way of being. And that new way of being has yet to be seen, right? In the new moon, which is what the solar eclipse is occurring at, we don't have vision yet. We can't see, because the moon is dark. So we can't see, but we can intend. We can set intentions for new beginnings, and we can see, what it is that perhaps we can envision, we can imagine, the future, what it is we want to create, but it's not yet there. Right. So it's an interesting eclipse as, we become blinded by everything to do with the moon, and the sun then holds sway. So we get to make some powerful, um, intentional movements, perhaps. But again, we don't see where we're going exactly. We have a picture of where we want to go, but we don't yet really have the full picture. So it'll be an interesting weekend, I think, and certainly the next energy of next week as we lead into that solar eclipse will be really interesting too. And I'm glad to see that Tom is with us this morning because I dusted off the chart for him that I had pulled on Monday during Monday's chat. And I didn't feel right sharing that information with the group while he was not with us. So, Tom, I have your chart so we could take a look at. We'll take a look at your lunar eclipse as well, because that's the one I actually had prepared, but also your solar eclipse that's upcoming. if that's okay with you. Just say yes or no to that. All right. Good morning to everybody, by the way. Good morning to Tom. I see you out there. We're all watching a movie. Indeed, I feel like sometimes it's a horror flick. Terry, good morning to you. Good to have you with us. And Tom says, shame on the moon. Bob Seger. Always bringing a musical component in. I love it. J-Lo, good morning to you. Patty, good morning to you. Asa, so good to have you with us this morning. Teddy, good morning. And Amanda J, good morning to you as well. So let's dive in, shall we? Today we have this exact sextile to between the Sun and Mercury, and then the planet Jupiter. Jupiter is a planet that really represents growth and expansion. It is an amplifier, right? A magnifier. And then we have the Sun and Mercury in a conjunction. For all intents and purposes, even though it's not exact today, it is in a conjunction. So we're bringing, the very essence of who we are with together with Mercury, the mind, and let's break this down and see, what it is that we're working with. And I'm also going to take a look at this through the human design lens as well, because interestingly enough, the Sun and Mercury are both sitting at the gate 47, the gate of mindset. I mean, it can't get much clearer than that, right? That we have this mindset shift that we are being asked to work through. All of us, right? On some level, everybody is being hit by this. So let's take a look first at the Sun and Mercury in Virgo. So we know that Virgo is a sign of discernment and analysis and refinement, organizing, and bringing together things, putting new ideas together. And when the Sun is in Virgo, our focus is really shining a light into the details, right? The little pieces. How do all the little pieces add up to the big piece? And getting clarity and organizing life and improving systems. And the Sun in the sign of Virgo asks us to sort through the noise and create order out of all the chaos, right? Order out of chaos. The Sun shining a light on where chaos is greatest, perhaps in your chart or in your life based on the house. So, look to where Virgo is sitting in your astrology chart so that you'll be aware of where the area of life is that you're being asked to make these changes. Now, add Mercury, the messenger god, the messenger planet, also in Virgo, and Mercury is at home in this sign. This is, his place of rulership. It loves Virgo's clear, logical way of thinking. So this is precision with words, sharp problem solving abilities, and an ability to pick up on the subtle details, the details that others might miss. Mercury in Virgo says, well, don't miss this, right? Don't miss this piece. So together, the Sun and Mercury in Virgo are a perfect pairing, right? The Sun illuminating what's important, and Mercury helping us to process mentally and communicate what we're getting clearly, right? So whatever it is that we need to say, whatever it is that our charts are communicating to us, we're picking up in a very clear way. Now, next, let's add Jupiter in Cancer. So I didn't get this printed or scanned in this morning, but here we go. We can see let me get a pen here to act as a pointer. So right here is where we have the Sun and Mercury, also the South Node, pretty close here. South Node being involved here also makes me think of letting go of the old thought processes, right? So here's Virgo. This is the Sun, Mercury, and then up here is Jupiter in Cancer. And you can see the sextile, right? I drew the line there. That is a 60-degree relationship between the two planets. Now, Jupiter is the planet of expansion and blessings and growth and wisdom. And Jupiter here expands the themes of home and family and roots, the foundations, right? The homeland, while it is transiting through the sign of Cancer. Belonging is another phrase that we could use or word that we could use to describe Jupiter in Cancer. So, this is the energy of nourishing yourself, but also others, of creating security and a sense of home. And Jupiter here says your growth comes through what nurtures you. and also what you nurture within you and what you nurture through others, right? So if we talk about the sextile now, the 60-degree angle is cooperative, it's supportive, it's harmonizing, and it creates opportunity. So unlike the square or the opposition where we have this, dynamic of tension, this energy doesn't push or demand, but it just sort of opens the doors or opens the windows, right, to something else being done. And when Virgo and Cancer connect, so Virgo, the sign the Sun and Mercury is in, Jupiter in Cancer, we get a blend of earth and water, practical insight plus emotional wisdom. What's not to love, right? And the Sun and Mercury are offering clarity of mind. And Jupiter responds with a sense of emotional expansion or emotional wisdom, emotional EQ, right? The emotional quotient. And also new beginnings, as Jupiter is sitting in the gate 53 of our human design, which is called the gate of starting or the gate of new beginnings. It's like clear thinking meets nurturing growth. Boom, what's not to love, right? Now, in human design terms, as I said, this is also especially powerful because the Sun and Mercury are together in the gate 47, a gate that we already have talked about in terms of being mindset gate. Let me share my screen with you so you could get an idea of what I'm talking about here. There it is. Okay. So up here in the Ajna center, the center of thinking, of critical analysis, of certainty, and the gate 47 is in the Ajna, and this is the gate of mindset, and it moves up toward the 64. And if you'll recall, last week we had the sun at the gate 64, which was called the gate of confusion in earlier quantum or in earlier human design. In quantum human design, this is more about divine transference, which means that we are receiving divine wisdom, but sometimes we don't understand what it means. And then, boom, the sun moves into the gate 47, and now can be the epiphany or the realization time. But also, the mindset here is all about shifting out of confusion and the possible oppression that we feel to understand and bring things out of confusion and bring it into clarity and then transmutation. And ultimately, in the gene keys, the highest expression is transfiguration, right? This is an alchemy of changing our minds one thought at a time or many thoughts at a time. So we're literally working with a higher level of mental breakthroughs right now. And the breakthrough energy can sometimes feel very disconcerting. It can feel really good, right? But what is it that's breaking through? What wisdom is breaking through, or what is it that is new that is dawning upon you? And then Jupiter down here in the root center at the very bottom of the chart in the gate 53 called the gate of starting. And this is about beginnings. This is about planting seeds and opening up new cycles of growth or opening up to new cycles of growth. It's the start here energy, right? It moves from the root center up to the sacral. So it's about forming a strategy, perhaps, or bringing energy together and then moving it up to the sacral where the energy of doing and being is. So this is a kickoff energy, if you will, kicking off maybe the longer journey of Jupiter's transit through Cancer, but also, this is the beginning. So when you put these things together, the Sun and Mercury in the 47 and Jupiter at the 53, you get a story kind of like this: clarity of mind, Sun and Mercury in Virgo in the gate 47 opens the door to emotional and spiritual growth through new beginnings. Jupiter at 53 and in Cancer. So, this is an excellent moment for you to take a fresh look at your mindset, to let go of any oppressive thinking patterns or limiting thoughts, and to embrace the possibilities, what could be, what's possible as opposed to what is or what has been. And these are possibilities that are just starting to form. It's not about rushing ahead, but it's about recognizing the opportunity and being willing to plant the seed. We've got to start somewhere. right? So where do we start? Great question, right? And the root center down here is also a pressure center. And I want to check something. If at the lunar eclipse, nope, at the or solar eclipse, the solar eclipse, Jupiter will have changed gates. So this moment is ripe for the new beginning. Taking a look at your life and seeing, well, what's possible now? Um, and starting to plant that seed, even though you're not taking the next steps yet. Plant those seeds, because when we get to the solar eclipse on the 21st, Jupiter's occupying the gate 62 by then, which is about the details, right? The practical details. And that energy will be on the throat center, here, looking upward toward the Ajna. And it'll be about, okay, well, what's the strategy? What are the steps, right? Not just the strategy. The strategy could be looking like the bigger picture, but the gate 62 Jupiter will say, okay, now what are the details of the plan? Okay, what are the details then that we have to, take step by step forward? So it's kind of the arc of the story right now for all of us is really, really fascinating, and really, really all about the mind and what it is we're doing with the mind, and how the mind is helping us or hindering us, such as the case may be. All right. Questions? Does anybody have a question about how that looks in their own human design or their own astrology chart? Because again, you're looking at the area of the chart where Virgo is. Virgo looks like an M with a leg that crosses over it, right? So M cross, kind of here. You can see the symbol here, right there, right? The M with the leg that comes across. And wherever that is in your chart, that house is the area of life that needs to be shined up in the mind, right? So in this chart, if this chart were a person, it would be in the 12th house. And the 12th house is the house of the hidden thought processes, the hidden patterns, the subconscious patterns that are running the show. Even though you consciously might be thinking you're thinking some other way, underneath it all are quieter thoughts that have formed a pattern that you're living out in your life. So if you had a 12th house Virgo, then what your job would be is to unearth what those hidden fears, blocks, limits are, so that you could shine the light on them brightly and shift them into a new mindset. That would be a 12th house Virgo placement. In my own chart, it's in the third house, which is already the house of mindset, the house of the mind, and thinking and teaching and learning and communication. So there's a whole piece here about what is it I'm communicating? What is it? How am I communicating? All of that. For someone like Tom, let's say, and Tom, I'm going to pick on you for just a minute. You have Virgo in your first house. So this really comes down to your eyesight in terms of how you see yourself and how others see you, right? And, your ability to move forward in your life might be caught up in a personal narrative that is up for change, right? Up for change. What's that narrative about? And what is it that you want to change it to? And your ascendant, by the way, is sitting at 21 degrees, which puts it only 8 degrees away from the solar eclipse that'll occur on the 21st. So I would say, with the power of an eclipse and the power of having Pluto in your first house as well, that this is going to be a big eclipse for you on the 21st. So we'll get into that a little bit more. Tom also says, ball of confusion. That's what the world is today. Yes, it is, right? That's exactly what's happening, this confusion. Now, tomorrow, we end up with the Sun and Mercury in a conjunction. And, Mercury has a very steady cycle with the Sun, right? It's like they're very much tied in a cycle that is similar to the cycle that the moon has to the Earth, right? In that, it's regular. It has a full moon sort of feel, a full Mercury feel. It has a new Mercury feel, and it has the crisis point feel in the cycle. So I'm going to see if I can't share a screen with the Mercury cycle on it. Is it going to be a window? Is it going to be an entire screen? Hold on, I need to do something else first, I'm guessing. And then let's go back here and share because I want to show you what the Mercury cycle looks like. And window, there it is. Here we go. So what you're seeing is the Mercury cycle relative to the Earth and the Sun. So of course the Sun is the center. Here's Earth out here, right? It's distance from the Sun. And here we have the position of Mercury at the very beginning of his cycle, which is called the inferior conjunction. Now, the inferior conjunction is like the seeding time, right? This is the new moon phase of Mercury cycle. And ironically, it begins when Mercury is in retrograde, right? The retrograde is halfway through when we get the Sun Mercury conjunction at the inferior conjunction. But right now, we are over here on the other side where we're at the superior conjunction. And oh, by the way, when we're in an inferior conjunction, we have the Earth, Mercury, Sun lineup. Okay, they're all lined up in a row. When we hit the superior conjunction, which is what we hit tomorrow, the planet Mercury is on the other side of the Sun. So we have an Earth, Sun, Mercury, right, conjunction. And it's just interesting the way that this flows. So Mercury and the Sun, they meet about 3 times a year, sometimes 4, and twice while Mercury is in retrograde. So we get 2 inferior conjunctions or 2 seeding times. And once when Mercury is direct, the superior conjunction, which is what we're up for tomorrow. Now, the inferior conjunction, as I said, is when Mercury is passing between the Earth and the Sun. It represents the seeding or the reflection of something new. A new beginning is in the offing and a new beginning of thought, basically, because that's what Mercury represents. In the superior conjunction, which is where we go tomorrow, Mercury is now direct and passes on the far side of the Sun, and this is kind of the full moon moment for Mercury. This is the cycle where we get illumination or culmination, or we get some kind of clarity, like that aha moment clicks in. So the superior conjunction of Mercury and the Sun marks the midpoint of Mercury's journey, and that means we are about halfway to the next retrograde, right? Yay. I always love those. It's a turning point now where insights gathered during the retrograde phase that we were in ripen into understanding. All of those new ideas, all of the new thoughts, all of the changes maybe in the way that you were dealing with thought processes are gathered and now they ripen right into something new. It's a time of mental illumination. The lights turn on. I can see thoughts and ideas and conversations that have been incubating come to light. Now it all begins to make sense. Where before it was like, disparate ideas maybe, or they were, not coming together. Maybe there was confusion, but now it'll start to make sense. And the Sun empowers Mercury's message here, burning off the confusion and bringing clarity. And isn't it interesting that they're both sitting in the gate 47, the gate of mindset, which is also the gate of epiphany, that brings that aha revelation moment to the surface. And because Mercury is hidden in the Sun's glare here, there's some sense of overwhelm as all of the thoughts maybe come in at one time and awaken some new recognition within you. Maybe it's too much information all at one time, and then things will begin to settle into a new perspective. So, there is the potential for a bit of overwhelm, a bit of scattered thinking, even as all of these things are coalescing into a new thinking paradigm, perhaps. And after this conjunction, Mercury will slowly emerge in the evening sky, right? He'll start to pull out of the sun's glare, shifting toward expression and outward communication of those very new thoughts and ideas and perspectives and the way that you've brought new things together in your new thinking patterns. There's also 2 points in Mercury's cycle that sort of represent like the moon, where the moon comes to a crisis point, the quarter moons, right? The quarter moons are crisis point. The first one is the crisis of action. Oh my God, I set this new intention and now, there's something blocking my way. What do I do? And then at the other quarter moon, the second quarter moon, we get the crisis of consciousness, where we realize that what we need is a shift in consciousness in order to be able to make those changes. And what we're seeing now is the superior conjunction. The next thing will be the greatest elongation when Mercury shines his brightest in the evening sky. But it will also bring the opportunity then for us to bring those new um, realizations and thought processes into their fullness, right? Sharing them with others, as it were. So Mercury has this cycle, and the cycle is playing out every time, and it plays out in different signs. Now, this time, the cycle is playing out in the sign of Virgo. So, what goes on with Virgo is kind of a context of thinking and analysis and discernment. So, the refining of the thought processes, right? The refining, the bringing to clarity, whatever the thinking process is. So, the superior conjunction of Mercury and the Sun in Virgo isn't just about any old ideas. It's about the practical clarity, problem solving, new systems of thought necessary to take us and move us forward in each in our personal lives. Now, this is also happening on the collective level, but Mercury and the Sun both being more personal to us, we see it more clearly in our personal lives, right? Now, you may suddenly see with the lights on, how to bring order to confusion, how to apply wisdom in a tangible, earthy, useful way. And it's about digesting information. Virgo is a sign of the digestive system in the body, particularly the small intestine, where, after the stomach has digested, stomach, by the way, cancer, after the stomach has, digested, it moves into the small intestine, where now the nutrients are starting to be assimilated, right? It moved into the bloodstream. So digestion, assimilation, all Virgoan qualities as well. So new information, digesting, right? Moving into your awareness, um, discernment. How do I use this new awareness? How do I use this thought process in a way that's positive and can affect me positively? And, um, Virgo, clarity and purity and discernment, right? In the small intestine, what's being digested or being assimilated are the things the body can use, the vitamins, the nutrients, the amino acids, whatever's in there that is useful to the body is being assimilated. The rest moves on to the large intestine, right? That is a whole different process, a more scorpionic process of preparing for elimination of anything that doesn't fit. So it's kind of unique, right, to see we've got Jupiter in Cancer, and what are we digesting, right? What are we taking in and nurturing ourselves with? And whether that's information, whether that's belonging or family. And then with the Sun Mercury conjunction in the sign of Virgo, now we're digesting it, assimilating, right? The process of digestion is all about assimilating and then moving on through, if it's in the body, to the elimination system. If it's in our minds, moving out the thoughts that no longer support, and allowing the free flow of purification, basically, which is such a Virgoan term, right? Detoxification of your mind, of your body. All right. It's just really cool the way that, I mean, I don't know if you guys see it like I do, but I see it that way. Now, both Mercury and the Sun are in the gate 47, as we just looked at. That's the mindset at this time in the conjunction. They're going to be in that gate. Now, that makes this an especially potent aha potential for breakthroughs, right? That breakthrough moment being very powerful and just kind of coming on in, maybe even in a Uranian way, which would be like, oh, I didn't expect that. And it's moving us from mental oppression into transmuting into alchemizing even uh, clarity, right? We're moving from that confusion. We are moving out of overwhelm. We are maybe moving into the transmutation process, which ultimately, according to the gene keys, takes us into that transfiguration. That's where the alchemy happens, where the old is transmuted, the gold from the old is kept and transmuted, transfigured into something new, right? And the superior conjunction of Sun and Mercury acts like a lightning strike of clarity, right? Out of the blue, boom, there it is. And the mindset shift you've been waiting for could suddenly click into place, right? If you've been waiting for something to get clear, if you've been waiting for discernment, um, this is your opportunity. So the Mercury Sun conjunction, the superior conjunction, is the full moon of the mind and an illuminating moment in the Mercury cycle where clarity shines through, right? We had the confusion of the Mercury retrograde, but now we get the clarity of what all of that confusion, what was it taking us to? And in Virgo and gate 47, this weekend really invites you to relate to the new thought processes by releasing confusion, refining your perspective, but also embracing a more empowered mindset overall. All right. Now, questions. You guys may have questions about, well, what does this look like in my own chart? So, move up to, let me get my human design chart back up here. Um, image, no, share screen. And it was this one. Here we go. So take a look at the ajna in your human design. And in this case, I've shown it defined. It's just because I can show it to you in a more bold way. But in your chart, is this center colored in? If it is, then you have a specific way of thinking. And that specific way of thinking could be the limiting factor, right? It could be the limiting factor here. The gate 47 here, if you have it defined, could be the planet that you have at that gate is what is creating the limiting factor. So, for example, what if you had your own natal Mercury at 47? Your lifelong process might be about transfiguring thought processes, moving your mind, right? Always along. What if you had Mars here? Mars here might be a process of you having to mature through the different, maybe passive aggressive energies of your youth and thinking, and acting, action before thinking. And as you've moved through your life, you've matured into being much more willing and able to think first and then act, right? But still based on a mindset. And what's that mindset? And now you're adding the Sun and Mercury here. So if you've already got this gate defined, there's more boom, more bang for your buck now at the gate 47. Now let's say you're someone who has this center open and it looks white in your chart. That means you have an open ajna and your thinking processes are not set in stone. In fact, it's often very much based on who you are around, right? At the very moment in the thinking, you might find yourself adopting other people's thinking processes or thinking like they do. And then you move away from that group and now you're thinking like the other group or what have you. It's a more open minded position when this ajna is open. And if you've got gate 47 now suddenly sitting on there, then you have to look at what your uh, relationships to other people are showing you about your own thinking, right? Are you adopting other people's ways of thinking, other people's ideas, not thinking for yourself, not thinking on your own 2 feet kind of thing? Because that's what's coming up, right? What is my thinking process? And if you happen to be someone who had the head center defined and the ajna defined, and let's say it's defined through the gate 6447, which anybody who, oh gosh, never mind, I don't remember the dates. It would be, I think birthdays right around now might, no, they wouldn't have that. It'd be the 47 and the 22. But anyway, the 64 to the 47 is a channel of thinking, right? A channel of thinking. And your perspective is very much based on your thought processes. Your head center is defined in this case. and the ajna is defined. So you would have a very set way of thinking, and you would also be one of those people that I would call a thinker, right? You need time to think, but you also need to address where your thinking processes may actually be undermining you, right? Where you're stuck in old thought patterns. So this would bring an opportunity with the sun coming to the 47, Mercury coming to the 47, for you to excavate all those thinking patterns that have you stuck and moving into new thinking patterns. All right. So I hope that's helpful. If we also, look at this through, what's going on down here in the root center, with Jupiter moving through Cancer, we've all been looking at growth and nurturing and expansion through building a solid foundation, right? Building something more secure in our lives. The root center is a center that really has pressure, and the pressure that gets put on us is a doing kind of pressure. People who have a defined root center are very good at managing stress. That they have a they still get stressed. It's not that they don't get stressed, but they manage stress in a much more typical way, or they have a coping strategy, let's say, built for the pressure of the root center. When you have an open root center, that means that center would be white. You don't have access to a specific way of dealing with adrenalized stress. So, what happens here often is you get overwhelmed by the pressure to get everything done on your to do list, right? I have a defined root center. My to do list might be long, but when I reach a certain hour of the day or I reach a certain part of, where my energy ends, I'm done. I just stop. But the people that have this open will keep going and trying to go and go and go, even if it is, taking them nowhere. So if you have an open root center, the pressure for you to do mounts because Jupiter here at the gate 53 wants you to do something new, wants to put new ideas out there. But maybe they're not quite formed yet. But if you don't start, you won't know. Right? If you don't start something, you won't know if it was the right thing or not. But often what happens here is you start too many things, right? Too many things are on the list. And this is a center that also pulses on and off. And that means that sometimes the energy is there and it's alive and then it takes off, and you might still be pushing to get things done even when it turns off. And of course, that can lead to issues in the physical body. So be mindful of that as well. All right. Questions. I'm going to go back to StreamYard now and see how people are doing out there. Da-dum. Ajna defined, but 47 is open. So that's Tom. So your ajna is defined no matter what. You still have a specific way of thinking, right? Your ajna processes information and data and memory in a specific way. And then depending on what channel it is, well, I've got your chart right in front of me. No, I have your astrology chart, not your human design chart. Sorry. So whatever it is that connects up to the ajna is the outlet for that thinking. So if it outlets, to another gate in the head, it might be the source of confusion. It might be the source of doubt. It might be the source of questioning everything. If it leads down to the throat center, it is you expressing your thoughts to others. And whether that's done with the invitation or not depends on the throat. And I believe you have an open throat center. So for you, the thinking process is there. 47 is open by birth, but is now defined by the Sun and Mercury. So what are those thinking processes, right? What are those thoughts? What are the limitations that are in the thinking? So good question for you to ask yourself. ASA, that's me. Both are defined the 6447. So already, this is a channel that takes in divine information or information from the ethers, let's call it, or out there in the field of energies, right? From other people, from the stars, right? From source, and then moves it directly into the 47. which means that sometimes your thinking can get ahead of you, and then you become confused or overwhelmed by not having the answer, not having, the access yet to the clarity that you need in order to take the next step. And if your head and ajna are connected by that channel ASA, but not connected to the throat center, then it could be problematic, right? Because now that inspiration, those ideas, that confusion doesn't find its way to the lower part of the chart. And I don't remember what I know you have a defined throat, but I'm not sure what channel that defines through. So you might have to, do a little a jog in how it is that your awarenesses and your ideas and your clarity gets actually put into the throat center and sent to one of the motors to actually, begin to be expressed out in the world. 47 is Mars, she says, and Pluto. Oh my goodness. So, wow. So having, Pluto at 64 is sort of a fantastic thing because you are you are you are looking at this divine transference of a new paradigm of power. Yet you're caught in a world where that paradigm has yet to be really manifested, right? If we look out, back in the 60s, we'll just take race, for example, and how the civil rights movement changed all of that and began, this movement toward equality and all of that. And now look at where we are, right? That got better through the 70s, 80s, 90s. And then we are now going, it seems, in the opposite direction as, things like that. Those biases are back, or are they just being exposed by Pluto as to what the shadows were? Like we just swallowed down the shadow and now it's coming back up for healing. So you have a lot of that kind of connection to what needs to be empowered, but maybe not yet clear about what your role is in how to empower, right? Others in your work, or just others in your family or in your life. And so could be a source of confusion, right? So there's that. ASA, undefined root, but my north node and south node are in gate 53. So it must be south node by design, maybe, because how could both of them, they'd be in opposite gates. So we got to look at that in your chart. So the gate 53. So your destiny is all about starting things, and you're a manifester. And the gate of starting things doesn't necessarily say you'll finish them, by the way, everybody, because unless you have the gate 43 or uh, the gate 53 meets up with the gate blank mind. Mhm. Oh yeah, it has a chart in it. The gate 53 meets up to the gate. Oh well. Yeah, I don't know what gate. The one in the sacral. And, oh my god, that sounds so lame. What the heck is going on with my brain this morning? Okay. I gotta find a human design. Oh, hey, I don't even have to do that. Let me just go back real quick to my own screen here. And 42. Oh my god. The gate 42. I'm sure somebody out there was screaming that at me. The gate 42 is the gate of finishing things. And the gate of finishing things, if it's open, some of those new beginnings are going nowhere until maybe something lands at the gate 42, or a person's energy that you're associated with lands at the 42 and creates the channel for you. So there you go, right? We need both. We all have the gate 42 and the gate 53. It's just a matter of how it's defined or whether it's open. Okay, so TD Hawk, good morning. Open, but 24 is defined. You're talking about the Ajna. Ajna is open. Gate 24 is the gate of blessings, or the gate of rationalization. So sometimes that might be a source of you trying to rationalize things, thoughts and actions, and other people's thoughts and actions. Um, Open root center. open root center. So there is an issue for you there because you have, sounds like an open head and an open root center. You're getting pressure from both ends, as it were, right? The pressure to answer questions and the pressure to do something. And they're squishing you, right? Squishing you. You got to stop and ask yourself, what is the pressure from? Am I trying to force things to happen? Is it somebody else's energy that I'm pulling in? And likely it is. So then the need for you, Tamara, would be to get away from those people for a time being and just be by yourself so you can get some more clarity. And Asa needed to hear that this morning. I love it, Teddy. Senior moment. Yeah, that was a senior moment. Like gate, I knew it was in the 40s, but it just wouldn't come. I couldn't see it. My mind is occupied in other places. All right. So, Tom, without further ado, let's take a look at your chart, if that is okay with you. I didn't see an okay, but I'm guessing it is. If it's not, tell me to stop before I go. Because I was really looking at your lunar eclipse. And in the show on Monday, we talked about a lunar eclipse survival guide. And it was all about naming the tension. What's the tension that you're feeling? And for you, that lunar eclipse took place in your seventh house of relationship. So the tension is likely playing out in your relationships in the mirror of what other people are showing you about you. Okay. And awareness being then a doorway to transforming. If you can't see it in the mirror, you can't transform it because you don't know it's there. You might think you might have, some inklings, but you really see on the face of other people in your life your truth, right? Because they're showing it to you. And the Pisces eclipse moon, it was in your seventh house. It was very near your vertex, and the vertex being a place of fate, right? A destined meeting, perhaps. And that means that, for you, the spotlight was on relationships and destiny driven encounters with others and how others act as a mirror for your soul's growth. What is growing within me is being mirrored to me by the people around me. And the vertex suggests fated or karmic encounters or revelations through some kind of partnershiping, right? Through your significant others, your business partnerships, if you will, that kind of thing. Now, that particular eclipse was also right into a square with your natal sun, right? It sat at 15 degrees. Your natal sun is at 13 degrees of Gemini. Gemini and Virgo or Gemini and Pisces, excuse me, square one another. So there's tension, more tension, right? Between your personal relationships and maybe your public or your professional identity. Who do I want to be? How do I want to be seen? And the tension may mean that you feel pulled between the needs of others versus your drive to do for yourself or to be recognized for your own gifts and your own specialness. And that particular eclipse was also in an inconjunct or a very difficult aspect with the Lilith, Black Moon Lilith, Mars conjunction in your 12th house. So here's where hidden anger lies and where suppressed wildness, right? Where's the suppressed wild child in you, and or your unconscious rebellion, and it may surface right between this eclipse and the next eclipse, by the way, which is in March, the next lunar eclipse in March. And this is kind of a blind spot for you, Tom, where what's hidden in the 12th house doesn't stay buried when we have the eclipse. It sort of starts to burble up, right? Comes up, and you start to see the evidence of the hidden anger or the hidden tension that you feel. And that was also an opposition to your natal moon, um, opposite the natal moon in Aquarius. No, that's not true. Why did I write that? What was I looking at? Let's find your natal moon in Aquarius. And of course, that's where Pluto is in Aquarius. And oh, it was in an not an that was not an opposition, it was in a semi-sextile. So again, more tension, but this time with your own inner emotional self. So the relationships in your life might have felt very challenging during this period of time. They still may be, right? This might not be settled yet. Where do your relationships challenge you or mirror your sense of identity and calling? So what are you seeing in the mirror? And what anger, frustration, or hidden desires are you avoiding expressing that now need to be acknowledged, right? So that's all about naming the tension. The next step is reclaiming the shadow, right? The eclipse highlights what's the hidden point here and what needs to be shown. The shadow here is the Lilith Mars in Leo in the 12th house of your chart. And the shadow is suppressed fire, right? Fire energy. Where's the passion being squelched? Where am I choking back the necessary action on the things that I would love to do? And this can also show up then as repressed anger or fear, and the subconscious resistance, perhaps, that you have to other people's expectations or to authority figures, that kind of thing. The eclipse exposes this, right? It's exposing where you hold back your authentic self expression, where you hold back your authentic passion or your creativity. And what's the point of holding it back, right? What is that? And your Aquarius moon in the 6th house of the chart, in your birth chart, is the shadow of detachment, the shadow of routine or over functioning, like, getting into these habits and staying with those habits, even though they're not supporting you. So you get to really reclaim those shadow parts of yourself. And the third step was integrating with grace, right? Integrating with grace. The goal isn't perfection for you, it's integrating or integration. The Pisces moon in your 7th house, the Pisces lunar eclipse, um, means that soul growth for you is coming through your relationships. Your soul is expanding via those people that you have in your life. And you have to learn from the mirrors that other people hold up for you. So when you see yourself in the mirror, what is it you're seeing? And integration means finding a way to both honor both your public self, your public voice, and your private needs in relationship. You don't have to choose. You sort of weave them both together, right? And the Lilith Mars issue takes on like a bigger meaning here because your Mars is at 15 degrees, your Black Moon Lilith at 13, that eclipse was at 15, so they're very tight. And integration here means acknowledging the suppressed fire and finding healthy outlets for your creativity, right? Your creative work, a spiritual practice, movement. You're a generator, Tom. You've got to move every day. Your body has to be in motion. And rather than just letting it leak out in destructive ways. So that was your lunar eclipse in a nutshell. Now let's take a look real quickly. How many minutes do I have? Just a couple. Let's take a look at your solar eclipse, which will be in Virgo at the 29th degree. Now you have a Saturn at 29 degrees. It is the only thing you have at 29 degrees. You do have a 0-degree north node in Virgo. So that's the opposite end, though, of the solar eclipse. So it's like almost there's this, you know, putting a book on the shelf and then, the book that holds it up at the other end, right? They're bookend kind of energy. Now, the solar eclipse survival guide begins with naming the new beginning. And the solar eclipses bring the powerful new beginning in, and this is in your first house. The 29th degree sits on your first house. So, what is the powerful new beginning of you, right? Personal you, in what you do, how you engage in the outer world. The second is to embrace the shadow and the gift in that particular way. Every new beginning comes with the shadow and the gift. And the 29-degree Virgo eclipse is going to be in the gate 46, I believe it is, because it's in Virgo 46, the body embodiment, being in the body, being grounded, right? So the eclipse for you may expose some fears or doubts while also awakening hidden strengths. I mean, that's just the general thing, but it's personalized for you because it's your first house. So this is the moment to embrace both. The shadow shows what you need to heal within, and the gift shows what to grow. So maybe that's a conversation we can have, separately about what the gate 46 means for you personally. And then the third step for the solar eclipse is to embrace with intent, or to align with intention, right? What is your intention here? Solar eclipses are the cosmic invitations to set intentions. So, what is the personal intention for your upcoming Virgo new moon? And remember, this is in a 30, 60, 90-degree relationship to Saturn in your chart. So there's a sense of some kind of strategy or form and structure that needs to be supporting you. Your Saturn is in the fifth house of creativity. So I think what's missing, the bridge for you for this solar eclipse, is your creative outlet. And I know you're a musician. Um, so I guarantee you that this has to do with your creative outlet, right? When you get to be yourself, when you get to shine your creative energy, and where have you been holding that back and why? What's the shadow there? What's the fear? Um, kind of having to excavate that a little bit perhaps before we get to that new moon so that you can um, set powerful intentions to bring that creativity out to the world. Okay. Uh, Tom says there was a plethora of burbling up this eclipse, challenging to say the least. No doubt. For everybody, this was a burbling kind of moon. For some, it may be more intense. For you, because it was so personal, about the reflection you're seeing in the mirror. Yeah, of course, that would make, sense. All right. So on Monday, I I will still come on air on Monday, but Monday is the day that my masterclass through the She Rises Summit drops. So if you've registered for the summit, make sure in your email that you receive from them on Monday that you follow the link to all of the classes that have dropped that day so that you can find the masterclass on your soul's cosmic blueprint. That is the class I'm teaching. And then there are offers there for you, a free ebook. No matter what level you come in at, you get the free ebook. If you came in at the VIP level, then there's an offer for a reading with me. And also the offer for the masterclass is a three session coaching package. And that's discounted right now to 333 because I like those triple digits going up to 444 as we get to the end of September. So take advantage while you can. If anybody has any questions about that, let me know. Um, so I will be with you on Monday. And if someone else is wanting me to go through their chart, I mean, I just picked on Natasha and I picked on Tom because I knew they were open to that. If you are someone that needs some guidance, let me know and I'd be happy to pull up your chart. In the meantime, have a great weekend, everybody, and I will see you Monday. Bye for now.